The selection criteria for choosing Barrie's Poet Laureate has been changed without any explanation or debate. This is Deepak and you are watching Simcoe Community Media. During the March 6th Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee meeting at Barrie City Hall, Deputy Mayor Robert Thomson's amendment was passed. It removes the Chief Librarian, the Library CEO, Poet Laureate from another community, and the Municipal Cultural Staff from the Poet Laureate Selection Committee, and it replaces them with 3 members of the Council. Thomson, however, provided a reason behind another change that would reduce the Poet Laureate's term from 4 years to 2 years. During the meeting, there was also presentations about the public art and Sandbox Centre, which is city's entrepreneurship and innovation center. The committee also agreed to direct staff to investigate the feasibility of developing a disc golf course. Carol Ann Ryan, Barrie's public art coordinator, provided an update on the city's public art program, including plans for 2024 and 2025.
The selection of our next major permanent work of art. This was a first in terms of it being a collaboration with our corporate facilities team. This is the first time that a work of public art in the city of Barrie is part of a design build process. And this is significant because we will be working closely with the architects who created a space that was intended for public art.
Lena Hawker, Managing Director of the Sandbox Centre, highlighted the importance of entrepreneurship in the city's economic and social ecosystem.
And these are some testimonials from some of our members. 2 of these are members who are very much coming in as mentors. And one of them is actually someone who started off in the Further Faster program, who found support in the Sandbox, who has continued to take part in it. And they are all in different phases of their journey. So we have from startup to another member who is part of the Mars Innovation Group, to a member of our community who is very much involved in the mental wellness sector, to someone just starting out their journey. This, to me, depicts exactly what the Sandbox is. There's a place for everyone and every phase of your journey that you're in. We want to be there to support you.
Ward 8 Councillor Jim Harris advocated for a disc golf course.
This particular piece of land that's quite underutilized, the city-owned park behind Park Place, it's kind of a quasi-walking path, but it's got some environmental considerations that Mr. Bradley might be better able to describe than me. So it's got some sensitivities, but it can be used. So the opportunity kind of seemed to align around having a intermediate kind of introductory 9-hole disc golf course on this site. And my impetus was using my my ward improvement funds to help fund this project.
The Sandy Hollow Disc Golf Course is located at 434 Ferndale Drive North. The committee voted unanimously to direct staff to investigate its feasibility. You can use the timestamps to jump to the various sections of this meeting.
There are 2 presentations this evening. The first presentation concerns a public art portfolio update, and I will now call upon Carol Ann Ryan, a public art coordinator, to approach the podium and provide the presentation.
Members of committee, thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to sharing an update on our public art program. And I'll start with some background information for you all. So our public art program at the City of Barrie was approved by City Council in 2012 with a public art policy. And that policy led to the Barrie Public Art Committee, which is a volunteer working advisory committee to council. And the Barrie Public Art Committee is an active volunteer group, and previous to the creation of my role in 2021, this volunteer group largely facilitated the public art program with the assistance of City of Barrie staff. And today they work directly with the public art coordinator and continue to advise and develop on public art for the city. Now I'd like to speak to some Barrie Public Art program highlights for the duration of the program to date. So I have a few images I'm going to share with you to highlight. So on the left, you'll see a sculpture you may be familiar with, Ron Baird's Sea Serpent that sits at the base of Mulcaster Street. That artwork was donated to the city's permanent collection and installed in 2016. The next image is an artwork that was commissioned by the Barrie Public Art Committee in that same year. It's an artist-designed bike rack called Juncture that now sits outside the downtown location of the Barrie Public Library. And on the right, we have an image from a curated exhibition that we hosted over the summer months in 2017 called Art in Unexpected Places. And that was an interactive installation from that event. And then continuing on in 2020, we installed the Horn in the Heart, which is our first large-scale original to Barrie public art commission. It was a national juried competition. They selected John McEwen, who is an Order of Canada recognized artist, to create this sculpture as a memorial to Bob Hunter. In the center, we have an image from our what has become our annual temporary exhibition, Brightening Barriers. And this is an image from 2022 by artist Katie Green. And on the right, we have one of our more recent projects, which was developed in response to an interest from the Barrie Public Art Committee. And this is our Art on Transit project. And this was a collaborative initiative that we undertook with the Poet Laureate, where we invited her to write a new and unique poem about the city of Barrie, and then invited our local artists to create works of art in response to her words. And I'll speak more about some of these programs throughout the presentation. So the public art program supports council's strategic priorities by playing a key role in advancing the quality of life in our city. It is essential to placemaking. Public art builds a community identity, creating safe and welcoming public spaces, and makes Barrie a place people wish to live, visit, and move to. The objectives of Invest Barrie are aligned with the placemaking benefits that we find in an artistically vibrant city. Public art in a city attracts new business, new residents, and tourists, while also providing opportunity for our local arts community. Public art feeds the soul of a city. What do we do in our time outside of work? What is there to enrich our experience as we walk, drive, or cycle to and from work or school? An actively supported public art program indicates progressive thinking, serving as a magnet for entrepreneurs, new business, and investment. People, everyday people, families, entrepreneurs, students, enjoy being surprised and delighted in the place they call home. Public art beautifies public spaces and engenders civic pride. Next, I'd like to speak to my role. That's me. Since the development of the public coordinator role in 2021, we have strengthened the city's commitment to public art by building on the foundation set in the past. As a staff member, I've become integrated into the larger City of Barrie team. And as I mentioned earlier, with public art being facilitated by a volunteer committee, we've certainly had more ability to move the portfolio forward with my role in place. This has led to advising on new opportunities and partnering with other departments to develop new initiatives. And examples of these include councillor-led projects on public buildings or within public parks, traffic cabinet wraps, and art on transit. And all of these projects were successful thanks to the support of fellow city staff. I'm also focused on maintaining our public art collection. Both the permanent and temporary artworks in public space require protection and conservation. Moreover, I ensure that these same works are shared with the public through education and programming initiatives, such as the production of our public art guide and providing and offering public art walking tours. In addition to the public art that we facilitate within the city, it is my role to support and advise on public art endeavors driven by members of our community. Examples of this include the BIA's Downtown Mural Program and the Rotary Mosaic Mural that has been shared to you through a memo on this week's circulation list. Now I'd like to proceed through some highlights from last year, 2023, and I'll share a few projects that we successfully executed. And I'm going to begin with brightening barriers. As I mentioned earlier, this project has become annual. It began in 2021 as an initiative of the Barrie Public Art Committee. It was developed in response to the pandemic. The Public Art Committee at the time really felt that our community needed some uplift, some brightening. As we all recall, we were separated from friends and family. Our downtown corridor was under construction and things just felt really tough. So we developed this project that would enliven and uplift our community members and business owners. So for that first year and for every year since, we commissioned local artists to create original works of art that will be installed downtown on our restaurant patios. This is a partnering opportunity with the BIA and with our local business owners. The art on the streets is an accessible cultural experience available to anyone who's walking downtown, whether you're living there, you're visiting, or you're patronizing a restaurant. This project has gotten a lot of traction. The reason it's become annual is because it's become very popular locally, but also it's received some accolades through the Economic Development Council, both internationally as well as provincially. So this project is unique in the city of Barrie, and we've had quite a bit of success with it, and it will continue this year in 2024. We also started our conservation and maintenance program in a large way in 2023. Prior to my role being developed, none of the permanent artwork had been conserved or maintained to any significant degree. So we took that opportunity to have a close look at the sea serpent. As mentioned, it's been installed. It was installed in 2016. So it was high time that the artwork was given some love. So it is a kinetic sculpture. It moves in the wind. So we have to make sure that, of course, it's operating safely. It also needed to be cleaned. And you can see here, the conservationist that came up did a thorough job of cleaning it. And now we can feel confident that this work is safe and will be in good condition, at least for the next few years. Now I'd like to speak again about our Art on Transit program. So this was a collaborative effort with the Poet Laureate. This was also a collaboration with our transit team. And we put out a call to local artists, local and regional artists, in fact, asking them to respond to this call to create these shelter posters for our bus shelters. And we received quite a response. These are the 5 designs that were selected by our jury. Those 5 designs appear on 10 shelters throughout the city of Barrie. There is 1 wrapped shelter in each of the 10 wards. This has also become quite a successful project. People really enjoy seeing art on city infrastructure, in some ways in unexpected places. And that example continues with our traffic cabinet program. These are the 5 cabinets that were wrapped in 2023. We will be continuing with 5 more this year in 2024. And another thing that happened towards the end of 2023 was the selection of our next major permanent work of art. This was a first in terms of it being a collaboration with our corporate facilities team. This is the first time that a work of public art in the city of Barrie is part of a design build process. And this is significant because we will be working closely with the architects who created a space that was intended for public art. And now that the artists have been selected, their design will be incorporated into the site throughout the build process. And this is a really wonderful way to build a public art program. And the working relationship with corporate facilities has been great. And I look forward to fulfilling this project with them. So this artwork that was selected is called Exhale, Memories of Breath, Steam, and Campfire Smoke by Studio F-. And we can look forward to seeing it at our new Barrie Allendale Transit Terminal when it opens in 2025. "2024 is going to be a very exciting year. There are a lot of things going on. We have a highlighted list here for you. We already have our culture plan update and public art strategy in the works. As mentioned, Brightening Barriers will be back. I'll be collaborating with my colleague in cultural development to create another professional development program. This one focused on digitization skills for our local artists, which will mean more of them will have the skills and ability to participate in programs like the traffic cabinet wraps. We'll continue with those traffic cabinet wraps. As you know, Exhale will be on its way in development this year. And we will be doing a new project, Seeds to Sow, with support of Parks Planning. And I'd like to speak to that in more detail. So Seeds to Sow is a temporary exhibition of site-specific public art that we're planning for fall of 2024. Thanks to council support, we're able to host the first site-specific installation in our city generated by Public Art Barrie, which means that we will have a series of public artworks along the waterfront and through Art the Downtown that are made for Barrie, about Barrie. And it's going to lead to a really dynamic exhibition that we hadn't seen in the city for many years. Council supported this project by releasing $75,000 from the Public Art Reserve. The Barrie Public Art Committee committed to matching that funding. Since we printed this presentation, we've actually reached 80% of that target. And a portion of it, that bump that we've received, is because we learned this week that we received a grant that we applied for. So things are really going well in the development of it. The exhibition will run for 6 weeks, September 27th to November 8th. And this will align with the Culture Days celebrations. And Culture Days is a national celebration of arts and culture. And the city of Barrie has always been very involved in this and developing out great programming. And so we're really happy to align our exhibition with that. And in addition to Culture Days, as part of the Seeds to Sow programming, we've reached out to some of our larger arts organizations, asking them if they would also like to program and align at the same time. So Talk is Free Theatre, Theatre by the Bay, the Barrie Film Festival, McLaren Arts Centre, we will all be aligning efforts during this period of time so that we will really have an expansive and multidisciplinary celebration of culture happening this fall. And it's going to be a really exciting event for locals and all the visitors that we intend to draw with all this activity. I'd also want to mention that this is being hosted concurrently with an international event in Toronto called the Toronto Biennial of Art. And it is our hope, as we further develop the project, that we can align our marketing efforts and take advantage of the GO and Metrolinx corridor. As people come to Toronto to see that exhibition, we'd like to encourage some of them to come up to Barrie as well. And there are several community benefits to hosting this exhibition listed here. Primarily, it's a free cultural experience. We'll be encouraging outdoor activity in the shoulder season, which not only benefits getting people outdoors when the weather maybe isn't as stellar as it is in the summer, but it will also increase foot traffic to the downtown and waterfront, boost the tourism economy at a time that's perhaps a little bit slower. And moreover, bringing some of the nationally recognized artists that we are to the city for this exhibition, we will be creating some professional development opportunities, mentorship for our local and regional artists, because we're really hoping to get them involved in the development and execution of this project as well. Finally, I want to speak to the future for public art. Looking ahead, we're entering a new phase for our public art program. We've established strong temporary projects and opportunities for our local and regional artists. It's our aim to continue this work while growing our permanent or long-term public art projects. There's so much we can do, and I look forward to working with council and staff to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. And I just want to take a minute to thank you in your role, because I think you have been a tremendous asset to the city. You're such a, a great advocate for enhancing public art in our community, enhancing and maintaining, as we just saw, public art in the community. And the Public Art Committee in whole, I mean, it's just been so invaluable, as you said, to really create an identity for the city and contribute to the growth and culture. So well done. I personally am just excited to see what's to come and continue to building this program. So thank you for that. Are there any questions for members of the committee? Deputy Mayor Thomson.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton, and thank you for the presentation. For other members of council who have never sat down with Ms. Ryan, they know that this is 100% her life. Art. And Matt might not like to hear that, but art is a very important thing. And I've learned so much from you. I know the struggles and I know the cost of art, and I look at it so different now, and I look at it in Toronto, how it joins communities and represents history. I always think of Spadina, and I think it's Richmond. It's got a big thimble, and it used to be the garment district and stuff, and it represents history and stuff. And I don't want to create work because I know that you're pulled in about 30 different directions and stuff. But is there a possibility that you can maybe write a memo to council explaining opportunities with the development community? I know some municipalities, they take, like, I know it's under section 37, we use it for affordability or some things, but to show like other municipalities of how they generate some revenue to their public art, because I always say this, I never thought I would say this publicly, but like, I think it's so important to a community that builds and it just, it does a lot of things. We've done a lot in the park, in my ward and stuff, but yeah, if we could just see some paths that, other municipalities have tried, I think it's, I don't want to say Montreal or Quebec, but they take 1% of DCs or a charge and they put it towards public art and stuff. So is there a way that we can maybe see something that gives council some options and how other municipalities are doing it to generate the revenue? Because you will never meet a better committee. These people like die for art and work hard at it. And it's really like, I learned a lesson my very first meeting. We had a long-term member who was retiring from the committee, and we had, I don't know if it was one of the artists in the committee had painted a picture and they were asking for money to frame it. I build roads for a living, and I was like, why don't you let him frame it himself so he knows what his house looks like? And they all looked at me, it was like, no, you frame art because you don't take away from the beauty of the artwork. It's not what your decor is in your house. And I was like, oh, so now I know. Like, I thought they were a little bit art snobs at that time, but we've come a long way. And I've learned a lot, and I know the importance, but I would love to see a way where we could, expand the budget, but not, just on a tax base where it's development involvement. And, we're building a lot in communities and, big structures that could use with some public art to join the city. Thank you again.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Deputy Mayor Thomson. We can absolutely work on that. It's something that we have discussed through the Public Art Committee and certainly in our department for many years. And there are a number of models out there, you're correct. We can certainly provide a summary list of what's available or best suited to Barrie to help find some funding to encourage more public art development. I can absolutely do that. And just to clarify your recollection, you're absolutely correct. That was when former chair Ted Handy was retiring from public art, and we gave him a Ted Fullerton drawing as a gift. So well done.
You've come so far, Deputy Mayor Thomson. It's I'm just sitting here in shock and amazement, and yeah, very pleased. Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Rietma.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton, and I'd certainly echo Deputy Mayor's comments. And I had the great experience of working with you, Carol Ann, and the committee on the art that we put on Eastview Arena, and that was a great experience, and it worked out really well. And I guess one of the things that I'd be interested in, certainly as the deputy mayor, in terms of how could we generate more funds in order to get more art. The other part of that would be, how can we publicize the art that we do have so that members of the community know what it's about and know where it is? Because I suspect that there are a lot of people in the 150,000 that live here that have very little information about our public art program. And so I'm just wondering if, when you bring your ideas back to council for the funding, if you could also give some thought to how we could publicize what we do have better now, because I think that would be a useful thing to do.
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Rietma, yes, I can certainly add that. And there's a lot of ways that we can do that too.
Any other questions for members of committee? Members of non-committee? Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, and my compliments as well. Carol Ann, just exceptional work. And I think Ward 3 has benefited from the full Public Art Committee being involved in 2 sculptures done by Derek and Tracy Martin in the East Bayfield Community Park, which is a great central location out of the downtown. And so I know, and I'm not sure if it's better directed to Ms. Schlichter or not, but when we talk about Invest Barrie in your slide and kind of the focus of those strategic objectives and really centering in on the downtown core in the BIA area, is that the priority area of focus? I know that you've supported myself as an example through beautification dollars and bringing art out of the downtown and trying to create those connected paths. So I didn't know if that was something where you're seeing kind of the plan for this year and around those strategies already being focused on certain projects. And if we are looking to engage you or members of the committee on ideas around beautification or art in our areas, you know, should we be doing that soon, or is that kind of a next year thing? I know we've got to use our budget ideally and have things implemented well in advance of the next municipal election. But I didn't know strategically if through you, Carol Ann or Ms. Schlichter, any guidance to us if we're looking to engage yourself and the committee in idea generation, if there's certain timelines or an availability of your time.
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Kungl, thank you for the question. I know there was some direction that came through the memo regarding the use of the beautification. I would say sooner rather than later. We have it in the back of our minds when we look at work planning, Carol Ann and I, that we anticipate or are hopeful that there may be some council projects coming. So I would say the sooner the better. In terms of that overall strategy and the question you asked with, are you just focused on downtown or citywide? Downtown is the heart of a city, so without a doubt, you want to include that. But I think through the traffic cabinet program and the transit program, there is a desire to bring public art to community beyond, I think, the downtown. And again, downtown is critical. There's lots of elements and vibrancy in that corridor that you want to certainly have art in there. But I do think it is important, and I think as a committee and as a group, bringing it to the city and into neighborhoods has value as well. We work within our means, and I would dare say that Carol Ann stretches the means as far as they can possibly go. The supportive community has been incredible. we wouldn't be able to achieve some of the programs without the sponsorship. So I would say there's a real investment, both from community we're seeing in addition to what council's delivering. So I think the goal is that it is a citywide approach. We're hoping to get more guidance too out of that public arts strategy that will look, again, citywide, where are great areas to develop more public art programming.
And in addition to that question, one comment comes to mind from an active transportation. And I know I think you shared about your being an active cyclist, but how we bring maybe these intersections of highlighting where art is in the city through cycling or transit routes that we can invite. What is it, over 140,000 visitors that come through Kempenfest and otherwise, or through Heritage Week and the Heritage Tours. But how do we kind of create an opportunity to kind of self-serve around different routes that can kind of support different initiatives? I know some of our committee conversations might not touch the Public Art Committee, so I'm hoping to change that and see if it just means an invitation to a committee or how we can look at maximizing both inviting people to skate, scoot, jump on a bus, but to do that in a way in which they might find a destination, and one being some of our public art spaces. I was in Boston recently, and just an exceptional amount of public art. And you can see how it gravitates both a tourism, but a resident feature. So by far in comparison, of course, different cities, but I have to say you and the committee have added an amazing vibrancy to our city. And I thank you for that. I may have forgotten my other question. So, my one other comment, and it's more of a Ward 3 kind of selfish comment, is that while you've done a wonderful job kind of looking at different ways in which we can bring art in, I think we haven't been seen as Ward 3 necessarily as being a viable area because the wrapping from the age of the infrastructure of the boxes or the bus terminals didn't really suit, I think, being able to host the design because some of the infrastructure is dated or had different kind of parameters and scope. So I know we're not down the line, but didn't know if there were other ideas where some wards that have not been able to kind of be picked up in those considerations due to just being prioritized around the infrastructure that supports it, if there are other things we can think about. And if there's, in Ward 3 as an example, highlighting a lot of our roads that are named after veterans, or Cundall's having a history of agriculture, if flags are seen to be still appropriate on streetlights or ways in which we can kind of showcase heritage or beautification along main arteries and in effect around a lot of our schools in the Ward 3 area. So love any ideas that you may have around Ward 3 specifically, or if I can engage the committee in kind of touring that area with me and thinking about what we can do differently there.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Hamilton, to you, Councillor Kungl, we can certainly explore that for sure. And I just to add to what Ms. Schlichter said earlier, I absolutely would like to see more art throughout all the wards of Barrie. And that's something that I hope we can achieve through our public art strategy, ensuring that every ward has a number of different opportunities and engagements going forward.
Good. Any other questions from members of non-committee? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Corser.
Well, Councillor Kungl has stolen all my questions, but I did want to say that I am a member of the Public Art Committee, and being a fly on the wall for the conversations of what I'm learning. And again, the expertise is incredible. The knowledge that is on this committee is stunning, and the dedication of everybody on the committee to get new projects, top talent, local initiatives it's just a really educational experience, and I really enjoy going to our meetings. So I just wanted to say kudos. It was really good. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any final questions from members or non-members of committee? Seeing none. Well, again, a huge thank you. It's not very often that you receive unanimous accolades around this table. So it speaks to obviously the tremendous job you're doing, and it's clearly much appreciated. So thank you to you specifically, but also to the committee at large, and appreciate your presentation and your work and effort in the city.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. Thank you, members of council. Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on to item 3.2. The second presentation is by the Sandbox Centre concerning review of the 2023 and the reimagined path forward. I will now call upon Dina. I'm not going to attempt your last name. I apologize, Dina, the managing director of the Sandbox Centre, to approach the podium to provide the presentation. Thank you. And if you want to say your last name so I can learn it.
It will be Hawker.
Okay.
I just haven't filed the paperwork yet.
Perfect. We'll stick to
until
that.
then, Draco's think tzatziki with a bit of a J sound in it. Yeah.
Hawker it is.
I'm a bit like Madonna. Dina is okay. We can just keep it at that. So I'm a little nervous, shockingly enough. So I will try my best to not shake too much or talk with my hands in the typical Greek fashion that I roll with. So good evening, esteemed members of council and our community partners. My name is Dina Hawker. I am the new managing director of the Sandbox, and I'm here to share what our journey has been and what our future plans of the Sandbox are. So where are we going? The Sandbox Centre is evolving, and what it's evolving into is a central hub for entrepreneurs, startups, established businesses, and basically the entire ecosystem within Barrie and Simcoe County. We would like to think of ourselves as a go-to location for peer-to-peer support, learning, ideas and exchange, and creating a community within our community. The focus plan is a reimagined strategy on that initial guideline, the initial points of bringing in that peer-to-peer support, but really looking forward to how we can expand that reach, how we can support everyone in our community while keeping our core values in place. Slide. This is our team. So I am Dina. A little bit about me is I joined on September 11th, a slightly ominous day. What my experience allots me is I've actually worked with municipalities in my past, manufacturing, law, post-secondary institutions, and finance. I have moved a lot. So it's been really wonderful because I feel like a lot of that experience gave me insight on different groups within the Sandbox. Before I came to the Sandbox, I was actually the BIA manager for cities. So I've had the privilege of working for large corporations and actually working one-on-one with small businesses. We still have our two team members from the original part of the Sandbox, Jesse Kerr, who is still our manager of ecosystem partnerships, and Megan Hall, who is our membership engagement leader. And we've recently added Sam Yount to our team, and she does our marketing communications. Together, Megan and Sam actually lead our events as well. So we've all collaborated and optimized what our positions are so that we can increase the efficiencies without growing the staff too large. Goals and objectives. So we were looking at who we are, what were we doing, and where can we be better? What we can first make our goal is to become that nucleus for Barrie. We have the space, we have the staff, we have the community who wants to collaborate. So that is our first point, is to become that nucleus for our community. We wanted to identify gaps between our partners. So in the first few months I was at the Sandbox, I met with several of our partners, looked at what their program offerings were, looked at what our programs offerings were also, and we built from there. Where can we build in these stopgaps? Where can we work together so that we can take a business through the full journey in Barrie and make them feel supported the entire way through? We wanted to foster collaboration. Traditionally, in many sectors of the innovation community, we often silo ourselves because we want to protect what our base is, what we're doing, but really what will help us all thrive is cultivating that mindset of we all have to work together to make sure that what our end goal is, which is supporting the community, is actually met. We want to encourage entrepreneurship. So promote that innovation within businesses to optimize what their output is and to, again, support our community base. We want to be that incubator for startups. And that, again, is working with the Small Business Center, working with the Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center, and seeing where we can carry a startup through. We want to have the community gather in our space, which is where the events we host, and having that space to give out to the community is extremely beneficial because, as everyone who walks through our door says, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. We want to keep that going. And we want to be able to accelerate business growth. So that is for those medium to large companies who haven't always seen that they had a fit at the Sandbox. We are building that base up to support the entire roster of businesses that exist within Barrie. 2023 in review. So there's a few There was a few big impacts that happened to us in that time. One was there was a transformation in our leadership strategy and also a transition in the leader. That would be me. Again, I have a big focus on strategy and operational efficiency. So that's something that I brought at the forefront. One of the examples of those changes were in the first 3 months I was at the Sandbox, we were able to all work together and actually decrease overhead costs by 40% month after month. And we expect to land at about a 30% decrease in operational costs in 2024. We optimized our software to allow for ease of use for the community. We started partnering more with with our high schools and put that importance back on the youth focus of becoming an entrepreneur. So we brought in junior achievers. We work with several high schools now, bringing in a co-op program, and we're working with some other innovation centers to bring in more programming towards supporting our youth. Because again, our families that want to stay in Barrie also want to see something for their families. During 2023, they did host, we hosted Recon, and I say they, sorry, because I wasn't here for the entire year, but they hosted Recon and did a section by section analysis of what is everyone doing within this ecosystem, where are the gaps, how can we support it? And they also, 2 members of our Sandbox team were also going out into the community asking what was still needed. Some of the overall highlights were how many visitors we had to the space, how many members and clients came in. So 1,904 annually came in. We had participants from outside of Barrie come into our space at almost 300 annually. The social media outputs and inputs I'll leave up there just for everyone to review. Our collaborations, again, this was a year of transitional leadership, so it didn't have a huge increase from the year before, but they were still able to maintain their peer groups, which were at their base of doing over 71 sessions in the year and keeping those peer groups and leaders engaged, and they've grown since then. And the amount of members connections that they reached were 18,262. These were some of the successful programs that happened in 2023. What these taught us when we looked at them in review when we were re-strategizing was that equity deserving programs need to be put at the forefront. Peer circles are still what makes and defines us as a group because that is that community support. Recon allowed us to spread our message to other areas outside of Barrie and really let them know that we can also offer support if their innovation sector does not have what we have. Title equity, again, was for the equity deserving initiatives that we had, in the IP Innovation Clinic ran for several years and was met with a lot of appreciation and success. And many of our members still ask about when we are bringing those back because that has become increasingly more important to our business community. 2024 direction. So what we are looking for right now is to continue our operational efficiencies, and that included a transition to a new CRM platform that increased our visibility to our partners and to our members. We have been creating digital and in-house offerings because, again, we are in Barrie, but there is a community that is just outside of that also requires our support. So we've been building up both an in-person platform of programs as well as our digital offerings. We want to continue to support our startups. So again, bridging that gap between our partners for how we can keep our community engaged. Retention and growth strategies. So we've been implementing programs that target those needs so we can continue to grow our reach and show that we have a multifaceted appeal to our community. And we're again looking to create an ecosystem that is holistic and we support each other. So everything we're looking to do is to support, grow, and make sure that when someone enters our innovation community, that we are keeping them and fostering their talents, and so that Barrie doesn't lose any talent. Okay. 2024 sponsorship, partnerships, and memberships. I was very fortunate. I'd been in many meetings with our sponsors and partners, and they do believe in the model that we have. And it's been wonderful to see that so far, to date, we have 100% retention of the sponsors who were part of the initial launch of the Sandbox and others who have continued. We have also seen a growth in new sponsors at different levels. But with these new meetings, with the new outreach to the community, we have seen more and more community members want to become involved with us, which to me was absolutely wonderful, especially given the financial climate that everyone is currently experiencing. With our membership, We did have a slight shift in what our priorities were. Again, we have that business focus in place, so there was a natural attrition that occurred. But what we have seen is month over month since I have been here, I have seen a diverse group of community members and businesses come and want to engage with us, offering mentor hours, wanting to volunteer, wanting to be a part of programs. And that's something, as someone personally who is new to Barrie, I was thrilled to see that, because that made me feel so excited to be here. And I could only imagine what that's going to do for our members as we roll out many of our new programs. Our current membership, we have 305 active plans. That does not include every member of that team. An active plan could be for a large company, an active plan could be for an individual. So where it rounds off right now of total people in our estimates was over 600. Yeah, which is wonderful. 2024 programming, here's a little sneak peek into what we'll be rolling out, which you will probably not recognize most of these as they are brand new. We have equity deserving programs we have put in place. Again, we have mental wellness support we've put in place. We have startup coaching. We've brought in virtual programs. We've created master classes, which will be online and in person. How to sell your business for anyone looking for exit strategies, employee ownership trust panels, supervisor upskilling courses, cost of turnover. You can see there is a wide array, because what we want to do is appeal to everybody. There is a place for everybody at the Sandbox, and we want to be able to pique the interest of our community. So our offerings, we want to be as diverse as what our membership base is. This is what I love. So this is technology tracking and visibility. So on the top left is our new CRM system. Traditionally, the team was manually inputting, monitoring, and creating backup data for what they were inputting into our system. This is all now seamless. It can be visible to anybody at a moment's notice. Should you want to know what is your current occupancy, booking rates, revenues, memberships, this is all now at our fingertips to see, which makes reporting and sending reports into whoever requests them much simpler, and with the data that can back it. The two dashboards that are up there were created for, again, further tracking so that we can all monitor how we are supporting our community. The Sandbox referral board was something I created so that when we are sending someone to a partner or referring them, we can now see who we sent them to, we can track it, we know who they are. It was done manually before, so again, decreasing any room for error. The regional ecosystem dashboard, I'm still in the testing phases of it, but what this does is, should we have any projects that we are working on through our partners, we can each go in and update this. We can each go in and put in our data, put in our files. We can know the project health, even though we are all in the same location. This allows for that cohesiveness to build in that system that lets us all work together with full visibility on how a project is coming along. And these are some testimonials from some of our members. Two of these are members who are very much coming in as mentors. And one of them is actually someone who started off in the Further Faster program, who found support in the Sandbox, who has continued to take part in it. And they are all in different phases of their journey. So we have from startup to another member who is part of the Mars Innovation Group, to a member of our community who is very much involved in the mental wellness sector, to someone just starting out their journey. This, to me, depicts exactly what the Sandbox is. There is a place for everyone and every phase of your journey that you're in. We want to be there to support you. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Excellent. You killed it. No nerves at all. Well
Just
done.
like shaking.
Yeah. Any questions from members of committee around the table? Deputy Mayor Thomson.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. Thank you, Dean, for the presentation. I know there's been a big change in direction and stuff like that. And I don't know if you're able to answer it just as you want. Maybe Ms. Schlickler could answer. We just signed a longer lease with the Sandbox, I want to say in 2022. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Deputy Mayor Thomson. I pulled it up just in case, so I'm really glad I did. So yes, council approved. There was an extension through to September 2028. There's one that goes to 2025 under current terms. And then in 2028, or from 25 to 2028, there's a look at having the sandbox starting to contribute to maintenance, utilities, and property tax. So in an incremental way. So the lease itself is 2028 with the ability to go another 5. There's a report back at 2028 before that were to occur, but that is where council approvals sit.
Thank you. And I do believe that in the report, it stated that there was a recommendation to extend the lease or the agreement, which would give the opportunity to show a little bit of stability for sponsorship and stuff like that. I see 100% retained of sponsorship with 18 people or 18 sponsors, sorry. What is your increase, if you would know, from like 2022 when it was kind of like in the hands of council to see if we were going to continue down the same path or extend? Like, have you increased the sponsorship with that stability?
So in my time here, I've added a few new sponsors because they all mature at different parts of the year. I would have to see by the end of 2024 what our full retention would sit at. As of right now, it's 100% with still a few more maturing to date. What I have been doing though is building in the contracts and actually building in a 3-year rolling forecast for what we're planning on seeing. So I can answer that as time goes on. Unfortunately, right now I just have the initial meetings. What I've been trying to do is meet and sit down and discuss everything about the sponsorship. Again, creating those contracts, creating that visibility. So by the end of this year, I'd say by the end of this year, I could give you a better picture on what that increase would look like. Because I've really only started going to market now that we have a firm strategy in place and full programming in place, rather than a promise of what will be. It's now deliverables that I can go to the sponsorships with. So that's something I can definitely report back on.
If I may. I noticed in both like the report and the presentation, and you spoke verbally of it, of the reduction in probably an annual cost reduction of your operating by 30%. And respectfully of, just getting there and stuff. Do you see any increase in your financials the other way, not on your operating, but like as a revenue? Are you see, look, this is very high level and I understand that, and we can probably take a lot of this offline after and stuff, but it's nice to see a lot of people, visiting and stuff. And I know that was some of the challenges in the previous management. There was a lot of focus on who walked through the door. In my world, did they leave a check matters to me, so that's what keeps the lights on. And then like today, would you think that you would, as an organization, be viable to what could be coming down the pipe of paying some property tax, paying utilities, paying maintenance? Like, do you believe that it's a sustainable model that you're, on the direction to?
I believe where we're going is, I believe what I've put in place is, and this isn't me talking about me, but it is, again, seeing the overall strategy, I believe it is firm in what it can be. I believe there was a need to tighten up the programming, to tighten up the offerings, to offer both pay per use as well as free to use, to look at different variations of membership models so that you can appeal to a broader reach, to bring in programs, events, and not just the visitors. So I believe that what they did successfully is that the Sandbox was able to embrace the community and engage with them. Where we are going is to create substantive programming and events that also bring revenue in alongside that. So I believe the model we've put in place and where we're evolving into will create a sustainable environment. I believe the first thing that had to be done though was those operational deficiencies that were in place, which often happens in a startup. You're not always sure what's not working until someone can come in and do that. So I believe we are well on our way to that. That is part of the reason that CRM, that data, everything that will now be in place and be fully visible is what will give us that proper insight into how is this model working and do we pivot? Because quarterly looking at these numbers will now allow us to review, is this working or do we need to pivot? Do we need to increase pricing on this model? What are the cost overhead that are now impacting, the revenues within it? I believe that the transparency is what's needed to be able for me to be able to answer that fully, I would need to look at my data quarter by quarter.
Perfect. Yeah. And like I said, I appreciate and I appreciate the pivot,
Mhm.
you know, in realizing that, you know, something had to change and so I believe in the Sandbox as an important asset to our city through, you know, like the Henry Bernick Center. I believe it's a collaborative effort, you know, to show people and it helps people invest here. So I appreciate it and look forward to, you know, some more data and stuff over time and letting you know, hit the road running and then come back. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions from member of committee? Any questions from members of non-committee? Councillor Nixon, you're a member of the Sandbox, I believe. Go ahead.
I'm a big supporter of the Sandbox and not just because of the role that it plays for entrepreneurs starting out to be able to meet, to have mentors, to you know, be in a situation you know, where they can meet pretty much anyone from any type of business and learn something. You know, that's one of the reasons I'm not just a supporter because of the great Thursday night social hours, although that's really up in the top couple of reasons. But no, I just wanted to congratulate you and welcome you. I know it's been a few months and we briefly chatted prior. A quick question. I was under the understanding that when the Sandbox first came to be, it was very unique. It was like the first one of its kind in Ontario, Canada. Do you know that, or maybe I'm putting you on the spot? But
No, it's okay. Everyone does. I was told it was Canada, though I don't know if since its inception, if more have come about. I believe in Ontario, it still is one of the only centers that has a large majority of private funding coming into play, being in this innovation sector. Certainly within the Recon tour, it was still one of the only of its kind. I believe the Spark Center was similar, where it operates in its RIN model, but then also operates independently as well. So they had a hybrid within that. But to my knowledge, it's still very unique in what it is, and that we also are still agnostic to a sector as well. So that's the other part that also differentiates it from some of the other avenues that have gone private as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm in complete, you know, agreement to Deputy Mayor Thomson that it is a great asset to the city. And you know, several times I hear a lot of people that want to go into business, they want to start this, they want to start, and that's the first place I send them to. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you one of these Thursdays.
Thank you.
Councillor Corser.
I actually have been through a couple of programs at the Sandbox, and I absolutely love the energy of business and the independent business and startups and entrepreneurship. And obviously, I didn't get very far in that world myself. You know, I love it. I absolutely do. And I go to a lot of networking events as well, still to this day, small business networking groups and all the things. Besides, like, I imagine that I'm one of the many people who asked, how do I get myself a moss wall? But it's the small events I've been to, and they're kind of like little startup groups and different networking things that I've seen come out of like the different areas in our city now as our city grows. I've had conversations with people and they're like, well, did you check out the Sandbox? And they're like, what's the Sandbox? And there's like that total disconnect of there's people that there's a large system through the college and through the entrepreneur programs in there. And if you know, you know, kind of thing about the Sandbox. But outside of that circle, there doesn't seem to be a lot of uptake on what the Sandbox is. So I don't know if has anything changed in the outreach with this new vamping of the Sandbox. Is there anything that has changed? And if so, what is it?
I'm so glad you asked. Yes, it has changed very much so. Our newest event, our Terra Talks event, is one example, which is our version of TED Talks. We've actually been doing mailers. So we've actually been going out into the community, dropping in for visits, sending mail, as well as the email. It's not just looking at organic social media content. This is now out in the community endorsing. So there's been a shift. Again, why we pivoted one of our staff to being membership engagement is to get out into the community. So it is a reach beyond. I truly feel like, again, it's actually in my panel discussion during the Terra Talk, is everyone's first strategy in marketing is social media. Social media can only go so far when it's organic. There are levels that you must embrace to be able to further a name, and it can't always be word of mouth. And the way we are going about this now is actually getting out into the community. We are actually coming back and saying, who did we go and talk to? Did we bring someone back? Are we going out and inviting people for tours in our space? We had someone in yesterday from a completely different township who took us up on our offer from a month ago when we invited them. So what we are doing is a personal outreach, because no one can advocate more for the Sandbox than the people who are in it every single day, where we can actually convey what it is. It's one of those things that it's like, you don't know what it is if you haven't been there, but we do. The staff, we know what it is. We know what it can do for you, and we are the best endorsers for it. So we have been going out into the community to continue to spread the word. And that is a strategy to go forward, to continue to connect with people in a way outside of just social media.
Glad to hear it. It was, and I've had feedback, because like I said, I've been in the space and I enjoy it, and it's really welcoming and it's really wonderful. And I've also heard back from some entrepreneurs and small business owners that, they hadn't been, but they felt it was kind of elitist, or it was academia, or just wasn't for them. So they didn't have a really good understanding. So I'm really happy to hear that information and that outreach has started to change to be much more proactive. That's good. Thank you.
And Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. Thank you for the presentation, and welcome to the role. It's great to have you with the Sandbox. So as you're co-located with the Small Business Centre, it was great to see your focus on youth, because I think the last time I spoke to the team there, it's one of the kind of the hidden gems, I believe provincially, is all this funding for youth entrepreneurs and supporting them around startups. So can you talk at all a bit about your relationship, or are you bridging the youth that you're bringing into programming with kind of the opportunities for youth around startup ideas and then connecting them to the Small Business Centre?
So there's with in-house offerings, we've actually been doing a lot of it directly just as a Sandbox relationship. So Junior Achievers was myself and Jesse are actually the lead facilitators of that. So every Wednesday night, which is where I'm going back to after here, we have them in our space, because again, what keeps families rooted in areas is the ability to have their children be a part of something. So we both firmly felt like that was a place for the Sandbox to have great use. We brought them in place there. And we've actually been collaborating with some groups outside of Barrie as well to bring them in who host youth events, businesses within Barrie who do mental wellness support for youth, because that's become increasingly more important. Directly with the Small Business Centre, we haven't started actively working on a jump off point with that, because we've just brought it in since I've been in-house. So it's still in its early phases, but something that I feel like even with our co-op students, we're now in our second iteration of having co-op students in the space, and it's been wonderful to see it, because they're gaining that workplace experience and they're really growing. And for us, it's bringing a whole new energy that teaches us that you always have to be teaching. It's not about delegating a part-time staff. It's about teaching something and taking that time. So it's that mentoring, peer-to-peer support that we encourage to our members is also now translating to the staff back to the youth in the area. So
thank you, Dina.
no problem.
Any other questions from members or non-members of the committee? And seeing none, well, thank you, Dina. It was a pleasure meeting you, and a warm welcome to you. I think you can see the support around the table right now, whether we're members or participants in the programs or just the Thursday night socials, which I know I have been to as well. So look forward to seeing you there. I've looked at your programming from March to July here, and I just think top notch. I mean, this is relevant, it's practical. So I look forward to the growth. I think the question is the sustainability. And I think, what you shared today in that pivot, I think the Sandbox is really headed in the right direction. I'd love to see, an update or so in a year from now and really look at that sustainability plan and that revenue generating model. But I think absolutely, it's new, right? And this is sort of the expectation of where we'd be. And I think the growth that you've accomplished to date is fantastic, but hope we can continue to see that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on in our agenda this evening, there are no referred items. We will move into agenda item number 6, advisory committee reports. There are 3 advisory committee reports to be received. 6.1, report of the Arts Advisory Committee dated December 5th, 2023. 6.2, report of the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee dated February 1st, 2024. And finally, the report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated February 13th, 2024. Can I have a member of committee place the reports on the floor to be received?
Madam Chair.
Deputy Mayor Thomson, thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee in regards to the reports? Any questions from members of council in attendance? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And it is carried. There is one recommendation from the Arts Advisory Committee dated December 5th, 2023 for the committee's consideration. The amendment to the Arts Advisory Committee terms of reference and funding for the Poet Laureate program. And the amendment reads that paragraph 1 be amended. Oh, sorry, I'm going to read amendments first. That the additions, paragraph 1, do you want to read that first? Okay, you read it. Oh, so does a member of committee wish to put the motion on the floor as printed? There we go.
I will put the motion on the floor as printed, and I have an amendment.
As this motion is on the floor, are there any questions for members on the motion as printed, or you just want to go to the amendment? Go ahead and read the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To amend the end of the sentence as followed in section paragraph 1. The city, to remove the chief librarian, CEO, and poet laureate from another community and a municipal culture staff from the Poet Laureate Selection Committee and replace it with 3 members of council. B, that the term of Poet Laureate be changed from 4 years to 2 years, starting with the new term of council, and I can speak to that.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So reading the report and stuff and just looking at everything, and, you know, I appreciate the first part of the motion as our Poet Laureate is doing tons of stuff. There's a few events I've been to, and you know, hopefully it helps with a little bit more to get more exposure, and that's why changing the term will give more exposure to more people. And that's pretty much it. It's just, it allows the opportunity for more poet laureates, which we will be able to expose, you know, different types of poetry, different cultures, different everything, you know, in a shorter term.
Are there any questions from members of committee? Seeing none, any questions from council members in attendance? Seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment as spoken by Deputy Mayor Thomson? All those opposed, and it carries. Motion as amended carries. Oh, now we have to vote. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, and now we will vote on the motion as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed, and it carries. All right, I will get this one day. Okay, moving on. Item number 7, reports of officers of the corporation. There are none, so we'll move into the final item on the agenda, item for discussion, the development of a disc golf plan. And I believe Deputy Mayor Thomson.
I will put the motion on the floor as printed, and I believe somebody has an amendment.
I just also want to note that staff memo was attached to the agenda from Kevin Bradley, the manager of Parks Planning, dated March 6, 2024, regarding the development of the disc golf plan in response to the item for discussion. I think Councillor, you're not a member of the committee, so you can't amend. Councillor Harris is not. Councillor Negussi is. Okay. Councillor Negussi, do you want to read out the amendment to the motion?
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. I have an amendment to this motion that staff in Park Planning Branch investigate the feasibility of updating the park strategy plan, including looking at city-owned land at Park Place and or other city-owned properties with related costing, and report back on the results on the investigation to General Committee. That staff in Park Planning Branch also investigate the feasibility of updating the park strategy plan in 2025 with related costing, and report back on the results of the investigation to general committee.
Thank you, Councilor Negussi. I'm just going to, sorry, there was a number of amendments flying around. So I think paragraph 1 there was updated in an email. So I'm just going to point that out.
So the first paragraph would be that staff in the park planning branch be directed to undertake the study, investigate the feasibility, needs, and cost of developing a new 9-hole disc golf course in the city-owned land adjacent to Park Place. That includes public and disc golf community consultation with a report back on the result of the investigation to the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee by October 2024.
Second paragraph.
All right, and the second paragraph, that staff in the park planning branch also investigate the feasibility of updating the park strategy plan in 2025 with related costing and report back on results of the investigation to general committee.
Thank you, Councillor Negussi. Are there any questions from members of council? Or sorry, members of the committee? No, and then I'll just, any questions from, actually not, from council members in attendance? Go ahead.
Thank
Councillor
you,
Harris.
Chair Hamilton, I appreciate it. And just to give everybody some context, and thank you everybody as a non-sitting member of this committee who's here, and thank you, Mr. Bradley and Ms. Banfield for your consultation. This disc golf, I'm not a disc golf player. I played once though, so I guess I can call myself a player. Was brought to me by the disc golf community, knowing that their usage of Sandy Hollow is amongst the top 3 course uses in Canada as far as disc golf. It's a real growing sport. It's a very accessible sport, both as far as availability to different abilities, and it's really cheap and affordable. So my history with this goes back to this particular piece of land that's quite underutilized, the city-owned park behind Park Place. It's kind of a quasi-walking path, but it's got some environmental considerations that Mr. Bradley might be better able to describe than me. So it's got some sensitivities, but it can be used. So the opportunity kind of seemed to align around having a intermediate kind of introductory 9-hole disc golf course on this site. And my impetus was using my my ward improvement funds to help fund this project, because the disc golf community is very excited. They can do course design. There's lots of real partnership aligned to this effort. So I was trying not to get too caught up in the the levels and not interrupt staff's planning for our city with their parks and recreation strategy, but it seemed like an opportunity. It was sitting, talked to North American Group. They're quite aligned to having it more activated and people coming to the site. So there's no barrier with our neighbor. Their neighbor's fine. So what I was trying to do in this iteration tonight, and thank you, Councilor Negussi, for bringing this forward, was just to really separate the opportunity and the project as it relates to Park Place and the greater city plan as far as recreation, leisure, and all those good things that will come out of it, knowing that staff know, they're not surprised that the Sandy Hollow course, which again is one of the top used courses in Canada, is beside an area that we may have to sacrifice because of being by the landfill. So its lifespan isn't infinite. It's definitely more likely to be impacted in some, so it leaves a net zero for the disc golf community if we don't get something else done. So this is not meant to replace it, but to augment it, to make it a great, easy access place with an environmentally kind of has some sensitivities in the Park Place area, so that we can add something and utilize this really great space without really interrupting it with something really that we can't, go put soccer fields there, ball diamonds there. But we can work with nature to create a disc golf course. So if that's too long, I apologize. I was trying to give you some context of how it got here, why it's here. So at some point, I'm hoping that my community or ward project funds will be able to help facilitate this, because the costs are really fairly manageable, fingers crossed. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm not sure if Mr. Bradley have anything to add as far as our discussion. I see you shaking no. So thank you again for your consultation. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Harris, for giving us some of this background. I know you've done a lot of work in walking the site and really looking at how we can maximize that space. So I applaud the efforts that have, gone into this to date. And of course, I think I've said to you, I support anything outside, getting people active, for youth, adults, and whatnot. So I think this is fantastic. I did really actually appreciate staff's memo as well to look at, just to state that we can't keep looking at things in isolation, though. As we can't just approach disc golf and pickleball and racket sports. I think we really need to look at the overall strategy, given the growth of the city, and really look at where are there gaps, right? Is it a soccer dome we need? Is pickleball sort of a growing industry that our population's heading? So for me, looking at the fact that our last approved plan was done in 2010, the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, and the next one's not intended to start to 2029, that to me is a little bit alarming, just given the growth and the sort of changes in the sporting industry. So I'm glad to see on part of this, and I know Councillor Harris, this is the amendment, just another sort of look to staff to say, what would it take then if we actually upped the renewal of that strategic plan to begin in 2025 as opposed to waiting to 2029? So I think that's a great addition. I don't want to kibosh the disc golf and I don't want to delay it or defer it because I do know it has to be done given that the Hollow-Land is going to be closing. But I do think we need to take a step back and really look at what is our overall strategy for this city. So yes, appreciate the memo on this joining us tonight so we could have more fulsome conversation. And Councillor Negussi, I think you had a few words.
Yes, Chair Hamilton. Question to the clerk. Did you receive my 2 amendments? I got 3 emails which are overlaps. I just want to make sure we received it.
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Negussi, yes, I did receive the emails with the amendments. We have the original item that Councillor Harris put forward, and then we have the amendment that Staff and Parks Planning Branch also investigate the feasibility of updating the park strategic plan in 2025 with related costing and report back on the results of the investigation to General Committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Wonderful, clear as mud. One final question, Deputy Mayor Thomson.
Sorry, Chair Hamilton. Just a comment that you made, just to maybe get clarity, and maybe this is through you to Mr. Bradley. There is no set date on closing the Sandy Hollow course. It's a possibility if our landfill was to expand but there is no date at this point. I just don't want that to be in the paper tomorrow, Sandy Hollow disc golf closing, because that's in my ward.
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Deputy Mayor Thomson. Parks Planning is not leading that project, but I do have some information I can share. There is a feasibility study that still needs to be done that's commencing in 2025. So yeah, there's a number of investigations to be done and alternatives to be looked at, so there is no finite date yet.
Thank you for that clarification and thank you for that pickup. And I apologize if I misspoke and said it's closing. I think I'm looking decades down the road too and making sure that we are proactive. So apologies for any confusion on that piece. Okay, so we are going to have to vote on the motion as amended. Okay, so, do you have a question? No? Okay, so yes, so we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion as amended. All those in favor? Opposed, and it carries. And then we are also going to a motion to receive the memo. All of those in favor, all those opposed, and it is received. Did I do that correctly? Excellent. Okay, we will move on to item number 9, which is adjournment. So this concludes the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee meeting.
That was the update from Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee meeting. Thank you for watching.